For real, listen close because this part matters. Sources indicate Katt Williams was offered a next-in-line spot after Bernie was gone, and Katt's answer was basically, "You did Bernie wrong, so don't come asking me to play king now." I still remember how people described that day. August 16th, 2008, Chicago. Reports suggest the comedy world didn't just feel sad, it felt quiet, like somebody turned the volume down on an entire culture. Bernie Mac was gone, and at the funeral, packed with famous faces, cameras, and big speeches, people noticed something almost right away. One chair stayed empty. Katt Williams did not show up. No public message, no photo, no rest in peace post for the cameras, nothing. And the same old labels started flying fast. People said Katt was ungrateful. People said he was unstable. People said he was being difficult again. But analysts who follow this world closely believe that kind of absence is rarely random. In an industry where even grief can become a performance, not showing up can be the loudest message of all. So why didn't Katt Williams attend Bernie Mac's funeral? The answer, according to people who've watched this story for years, isn't about hatred. It's not even about ego. It's about loyalty and a truth that many believe Hollywood wanted buried the same day Bernie was. Let's walk through it carefully. Bernie Mac wasn't just another comedian to Katt. A lot of people misunderstood what Bernie Mac meant to Katt Williams from day one. To the public, they were both successful comedians, maybe even co-workers in the same business. But to Katt, Bernie wasn't simply a peer. Bernie was the standard. Not just the funniest, but the example of what a comedian is supposed to be when the lights come on and the pressure hits. Katt spoke about Bernie like a man speaks about a rule you don't break. He treated Bernie like the proof that you could be real and still win. Reports suggest Katt admired that Bernie didn't need to act weak, silly, or fake to get laughs. Bernie walked on stage like a grown man who didn't ask permission. He didn't beg for approval. He didn't change who he was to make anyone comfortable. And that mattered. Because in comedy, especially at the highest levels, there's always pressure to fit, pressure to soften your edges, pressure to be marketable, pressure to play the game. Bernie didn't play it. And Katt saw that as power that no studio could hand you and no contract could guarantee. Respect that comes from truth. People who were there back in the day often talk about Bernie's presence like it was a force. One look, one pause, one line, and a whole crowd would explode. Then, seconds later, he could make the same crowd go quiet by touching something painful and real. That isn't just comedy. That's command. Their bond was built in struggle, not parties. This wasn't some fancy Hollywood friendship made in VIP rooms. Their connection was forged in hard places, clubs, grind seasons, and the kind of childhood stories that don't get told on red carpets. Bernie came from the south side of Chicago, where survival wasn't a motivational quote, it was daily life. And Katt's early life also included serious hardship. Reports and past interviews suggest he knew what it felt like to be on the outside looking in, fighting for stability. That kind of background builds a certain code. And one lesson both men seemed to learn early is simple. Laughter isn't only entertainment. Sometimes it's armor. Both of them were seen by parts of the industry as too raw, too real, or too much, yet they refused to clean up their stories just to make powerful people feel safe. Bernie's style was bold, he demanded respect from the crowd. Katt's style was sharp, he challenged the room. Different delivery, same spirit. Bernie guided Katt when fame started getting dangerous. People forget how fast fame can poison someone. And sources indicate Bernie didn't just respect Katt's talent, he tried to protect it. Not by teaching him how to write jokes, but by warning him about the cost of selling yourself. The story many fans believe is true is that Bernie would pull Katt aside and speak to him like a father figure, not to hype him up, but to keep him grounded. Take care of your people. Don't let the industry turn you into a puppet. Don't trade your truth for applause. And that kind of advice sticks when it comes from someone you truly respect. Bernie was one of the few people Katt would actually listen to. And Katt, for all his wild energy, seemed to treat Bernie like the one voice that mattered. Friday After Next wasn't just a movie, many see it as a moment. In 2002, Friday After Next became a major moment in black comedy film history. Bernie Mac and Katt Williams were both part of a culture that was growing fast and becoming bigger than the industry expected. Bernie already had the respect of the people. Katt came in like a lightning strike. And reports suggest that on that set, it wasn't competition. It felt like a torch being passed. Not who's funnier, but who keeps the tradition alive. Later, when Katt became known for calling out hypocrisy in entertainment, many fans believed he was carrying Bernie's spirit behind him, the idea that you don't bend just to be booked. And that brings us to a bigger, darker part of the story. The Kings of Comedy era, legend on the outside, tension on the inside. The original Kings of Comedy tour is viewed as historic. Big arenas, huge crowds, major money, Spike Lee filming it, a documentary that made it even bigger. By the numbers, it looked like unity. But people who know stand-up will tell you something simple. Comedy is not a team sport. On stage, you're alone. And when careers, money, and legacy are on the line, even friends can become quiet rivals. Analysts believe that behind the smiles, there's often pressure, especially about one thing the audience never thinks about. Who goes last? Because in stand-up, the closer is usually treated like the biggest star. But sources indicate this tour had a problem no one could easily solve. Bernie Mac was not just strong. He was a storm. Many fans say Bernie didn't do well. He wiped the room out. After Bernie, the audience wasn't warmed up. They were exhausted from laughing. And that creates a brutal reality. Anyone who follows that looks smaller, even if they're good. So reports suggest there was tension about order, credit, and control. And Katt, watching it all from the outside over time, appeared to believe Bernie didn't always get the respect he earned behind the scenes. Why Katt later aimed his anger at Steve Harvey and why it connects to Bernie. Fast forward to early 2024 when Katt sat down on Shannon Sharpe's podcast. That interview didn't feel like a casual talk. It felt like Katt came in with years of frustration loaded and ready. He took shots at Steve Harvey about comedy, about image, about what Katt believes happened in that era. Now, to be clear, these are allegations and opinions, not proven facts, but the reason it hits so hard is because in comedy, accusations of joke theft or borrowing style are treated like the worst kind of betrayal. And Katt didn't just criticize Steve's career path, he mocked the idea that Steve represented king energy in stand-up. To Katt, the stage is where truth lives. No teleprompter, no network safety net, just you and the crowd. And reports suggest Katt's bigger point wasn't just personal beef, it was moral. He appeared to be saying, how can the people who benefited while Bernie struggled still get praised like heroes? Whether viewers agree or not, that's the heart of the argument many believe Katt is making. Bernie's illness, the final weeks, and the pain people didn't see. Bernie's health battle is heartbreaking. He dealt with sarcoidosis for years. Reports indicate it affected his body over time, including his immune system. And while many people connect his death directly to that illness, widely reported accounts say he ultimately passed due to pneumonia complications. His body simply couldn't fight the infection. Another detail that still shocks people, Bernie was reportedly hospitalized for weeks before he died. And during that time, the public heard hopeful updates, until the worst news suddenly came. His family's grief was real, his fans were blindsided, and the industry kept moving, like it always does. Sources close to comedy circles suggest Katt didn't just mourn Bernie's death. He mourned the way Bernie was treated while he was still here. And that leads to the funeral. The funeral, Katt didn't see a goodbye, he saw a show. Here's the part that changes everything. Many believe Katt refused to attend because he did not want to stand in a room where grief was being turned into a stage. In entertainment, big funerals can become public events, cameras, speeches, people trying to be seen, people trying to be attached to a legend. And sources indicate Katt felt some of the same people who praised Bernie in death didn't protect him in life. So for Katt, showing up would have meant playing along, and he didn't want his pain used as part of anyone else's image. He wanted his grief to stay clean, private, real, untouched. The dress issue and why Bernie mattered even more to Katt. There's another layer that comes up often in black comedy conversations, the long-running debate about cross-dressing roles in Hollywood. Some see it as harmless comedy, others see it as pressure placed on black male performers to lower themselves for mainstream laughs. Bernie was often seen as one of the rare stars who stood firm on dignity and did not base his success on humiliation. And Katt has spoken in ways that suggest he views Bernie as a symbol of that resistance. So when Katt looked at that funeral, according to this interpretation, he may have felt like certain people honoring Bernie were celebrating him publicly while living by a different code privately. Again, these are interpretations, but they explain why Katt's absence wasn't silence. It was protest. Another deeply human reason, Katt didn't want his last image of Bernie in a casket. There's also something simpler and maybe more painful. Some people cannot handle seeing their hero like that. Katt's picture of Bernie was alive, eyes wide, voice booming, owning the room, and many believe Katt refused to replace that memory with a final image of stillness inside a box. So he stayed away. He accepted being judged by the world so he could protect what Bernie meant to him inside his own mind. That's not weakness. That's devotion. The offer after Bernie died, be the next king. After Bernie passed, there was a huge gap in black comedy, and reports suggest the business side moved fast. The machine didn't want to stop, the brand didn't want to slow down, the money didn't want to rest. And at that moment, Katt Williams was one of the hottest names out. Sources indicate he was approached with an offer: step into the empty space, take the crown, become the next king. For most people, that would sound like the dream. But for Katt, it reportedly felt like an insult. Because in his view, you don't ignore a man, marginalize him, and then use his absence like a job opening. Katt's position, as many interpret it, was basically, you didn't treat Bernie right, and I'm not helping you pretend you did. The cost of refusing, isolation, headlines, and being labeled crazy. After that, a lot changed for Katt. And whether people agree with him or not, many observers believe the industry has a way of punishing rebels without saying it out loud. You don't get banned. You just stop getting calls. Then come the headlines, the public incidents, the viral clips, the constant story that you're unstable, difficult, impossible. Some of that may be personal choices, some may be pressure, and some may be both, but the result is the same: isolation. Meanwhile, the stars who play the game often get smooth careers, clean media coverage, and protection. Katt chose something else. He chose to keep speaking, even if it cost him. Because in his mind, that was part of the promise he made to Bernie: never sell your dignity. And when he came back into the spotlight in 2024 and spoke like a man with nothing to lose, the internet shook because people could feel it wasn't rehearsed. It was years of stored anger and loyalty coming out at once. So why didn't Katt attend Bernie Mac's funeral? If you pull all of this together, the answer many believe fits best is this: Katt didn't skip the funeral because he didn't care. He skipped it because he cared too much to watch Bernie's goodbye turn into a public performance. He didn't want fake tears. He didn't want public relationships that weren't real. He didn't want grief turned into branding. He wanted Bernie's memory protected, not marketed. So before you call him ungrateful, ask yourself something. Is loyalty about showing up where people can see you, or is it about protecting someone's truth when they're no longer here to defend themselves? Because Katt accepted being misunderstood for years. And maybe, just maybe, that was the price he was willing to pay to honor Bernie in the only way he trusted. Now the real question is this: if you were in Katt's place watching the cameras, the speeches, the people who may not have been there when it mattered most, would you have walked into that church? Or would you have stayed away too?